and welcome back to my small little library. In today's video I want to talk about my Stephen King collection. I kind of want to do like a chatty video because I'm on sick leave from work. I'm still not feeling the greatest, and so yeah, I just wanted, to chat with you about Stephen King because I actually really like his writing. I don't know, he has some really good books, he has some really average books, and yeah, I kind of want to talk about the ones I've read already by him, because one of my goals, it's like more or less like a life goal, is to actually read all of his books, just because I'm really interested to see how they compare like to his different seasons in life, and so yeah, I started buying them one after the other, and so I actually currently own 33 of his books. I'm gonna put the complete amount he has ever written on the screen here because I'm filming on my phone, so I can't look it up right now. But yeah, so I own 33 of them, and out of the 33 I own, I have read 27 already, which I think is kind of a good ratio. That is not my normal ratio with most authors, let's be honest. But yeah, it's the Stephen King ratio. And so I do own like a mixture of different editions. So I have some hardcovers, some paperbacks, some of his hard crime books, different like versions like when they came out. So I have some of like the really new covers, some really old covers. I bought some secondhand, so these are like really old versions. And yeah, so I have a good mixture. They look like really randomly cobbled together, but I kind of like that. I like having some like really pre-loved editions, and then some really new looking ones that only I have ever read the book of. So yeah, I kind of want to start like to show you them all, and then in the end we can kind of talk about what are my favorites, which I don't like as much, just to give you like a general overview of the books I own. And so we will start with the ones that he published with Hardcase Crime. I think they are called Hardcase Crime. I own these three. He hasn't published that many through this publisher. I think they started as like a really small publisher, and Stephen King kind of liked the idea and then was like, okay, I will write you a book, and that he published there. But these are all like crime related novels, so not typically like Stephen King's normal books. So the one I have that is a hardcover is Joyland, and this is an illustrated edition. So in Joyland we have our main character Devin, and he is a college student, and he takes a summer job at Joyland, and yeah, he learns something about life. It has something to do with someone who died there, who maybe still is there, and yeah, kind of like finding out what happened in Joyland, and yeah, growing up in the process. Interesting concept, I think. Then we have, well, let's start with Colorado Kid. This is one about someone who died at the beach, and our main characters are two guys who work for a newspaper, and they kind of like talk about it because the mystery was never solved, and so yeah, they kind of like speculate what happened maybe. And there was actually like a real true crime case. This seems like it's inspired by that. I don't know that, but yeah, there's a really similar true crime case out there, but this one really great perspective because it is kind of like through the lens of a journalist, which is kind of interesting. And then we have the latest one. This one isn't that old, and that is called Later, and it's about a boy who can see ghosts. And so yeah, he struggles with that ability because obviously it's not easy, and yeah, he tries to navigate life and, not die in the process. So yeah, these are the three Hardcase Crime books I have of that. I definitely want to look more into the publisher because I do really like those books, and if the other books are similar, then that could be cool. Also, they would look nice on the shelves. So yeah, but those are the only ones I own that are published through that, and not like through a normal publisher. So then let's start maybe with the books I got secondhand, which are quite a few, but yeah. We will start first with all of these really like big ones that are kind of older, I think. We have the one I'm currently reading, which is Rose Madder, a woman who escapes her cop husband who abuses her for like 14 years in their marriage, and she finally has takes the courage and leaves, and yeah, now he's coming after her, trying to get her back. Then we have this is like a story collection called Different Seasons, and in here we have Stand By Me, which is like a really popular movie about these children who find a dead body in the woods. But yeah, other than that, we have a few other short stories in here as well. Yeah, we have Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, Apt Pupil, The Body, which is Stand By Me, and The Breathing Method. So yeah, haven't seen any of the movies. I really like the stories. And then we have another short story collection, but this is like really shorter stories. The other one were like, you know, longer short stories. That is called Everything's Eventual, and there are 14 like horror stories in here. These ones I found to be really hit and miss, but I think that's a lot of the time with short story collections, that's the case. At least for me, I rarely like everything in a collection, so yeah, it's no wonder that it's with that one as well. Then we have Insomnia by Stephen King. Really interesting story wise. People start to get insomnia, and then it all gets weird from there. That's just how it is. And then we have Dreamcatcher, which where we have a group of people who go to this hunting cabin, and then there comes someone who is kind of dying to their cabin, and like he's in really bad physical condition, so they take him in, and yeah, things go wrong from there. There might be aliens in here, and yeah, adventure, you know, just really less horror, more adventure than the typical Stephen King, actually. And then we have 4 of the books from the Dark Tower series. As you can see, obviously as I bought them secondhand, I don't have any really matching, like these two match, but yeah. So I have the Dark Tower, the Gunslinger, which is part 1. I have this really weirdly sized copy, but it is illustrated, which is kind of cool. Let me show you. So yeah, this is an illustrated edition, which is cool, but it really doesn't fit format-wise. Then, let's see. Then I have the Drawing of the Three, which is part 2, and then I have The Wasteland, which is part 3. These two I haven't read yet. I only read part 1 and started part 2, but yeah, we're gonna talk about that in a minute. And then I have part 5, because I could get this one really cheaply secondhand, and this is the editions I kind of want them all in, but I haven't made my mind up about the series yet, so I don't know if it's really sensible to invest in the rest of the books. But yeah, I don't know part 4, but part 5. Then we have 2 more paperbacks that I bought used. One is Stephen King writing under her pseudonym of Richard Bachman, and that is Thinner. Really interesting story that's kind of about a curse, because our main character is kind of like really an asshole, and so he gets cursed, and it has something to do with getting thinner. And then we have another short story collection. This one isn't strictly Stephen King, but there are stories by him in here, so I always group it together with my Stephen King books. And yeah, it's called Dark Love. Really not the greatest collection. I wouldn't recommend it that much, to be honest. And now we have a few more hardcover books by him that I bought secondhand. Those all look a lot better than the paperbacks, but to be honest, I don't think, like, let's look at this one for example. I mean, you can see how loved this book is. This has obviously been read quite a few times, and yeah, once by me, so I kind of love that. But yeah, next ones, we have quite a few actually. So let's start with this one. Absolutely love the colors, kind of fitting to my outfit today. But yeah, this is from a Buick 8, one of his car books, where the car is kind of possessed, really, and yeah, in this one the Buick is the problem. Then we have another one that is more like a crime case, because here the main character is a detective, and that is Mr. Mercedes. And yeah, we have pretty much our detective who tries to prevent a really bad crime from happening, and he works together with like this woman whose mother died and a kid from his street who also tries to help him. And yeah, really average book, to be honest. Then we have another short story collection, and that is Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Really love the cover, to be honest. This is actually the first short story collection of Stephen King I ever read. And so, yeah, if I'm totally honest, I don't remember much of these stories, so I probably need to do a reread of these. And then we have one that was by far my favorite for a long time by him, and that is Dolores Claiborne. Yeah, this one was really interesting because our main character, Dolores, is the maid for like this really rich woman, and she's suspected of killing her, and in the process of understanding what happened, a lot of dark secrets come to show. And yeah, I just love our main character in this book. Absolutely great. And yeah, I like the perspective between like the really poor working woman and then the rich woman who lives there, who kind of goes mad and madder over time. And yeah, great story. And then the last one that I bought secondhand is one he wrote together with his son, and that is Sleeping Beauties together with Owen Kings. Absolutely massive. In this books, the women kind of all sleep. So yeah, they kind of get like wrapped into cocoons, they go to sleep, and then if you try to wake them and remove the cocoon, they go feral. And yeah, they kind of have to find out what happened and kind of like fix the situation. But because it is so massive, I haven't started this one yet. Okay, and now let's talk about all of the other books that I bought new. I actually love my secondhand books because there are a lot of cool versions there. So yeah, I kind of want to go forward buying more secondhand of Stephen King instead of buying new ones, even though there are some really cool looking new ones. First things first, we have these two. These belong to like one sort of collection technically. So then we have Salem's Lot and Carrie. Obviously this is the story of the town overrun by vampires, and Carrie, I don't know. I think everybody knows Carrie, but yeah, we have Carrie who kind of has like psychic powers and everybody bullies her. And at some point she just can't take it anymore. So yeah, two great ones. To be honest, I think these are kind of my favorite editions because they have this shiny font on them, and yeah, kind of love them. Then we obviously have It, though I own the version, well, the movie inspired cover, you know. And then we have Pet Sematary, where our main character is like a doctor and he moves to like a really small town with his family, and there's a pet cemetery behind their house, and yeah, things go really, really wrong from there. And then we have these two that belong to the same collection, that is The Shining with the Overlook Hotel, you know, the hotel with overrun by ghosts, and our main character has The Shining and can see them, and he kind of goes mad over it. And then we have Dr. Sleep, which is part 2 to The Shining, so I won't tell you what this is about, other than that it's about the son from the first book, and the son is the one who has The Shining, not the main character, which is like kind of the father of the son. But yeah, so we have then Dr. Sleep here, where there's a lot of like more like information about the world. It kind of like builds up on The Shining, the first one. So yeah, these two. I think they actually are more or less, well, this is the Iconic Terror collection, but this is really similar, so I don't know. Kind of hate that they don't match up like really well, because obviously they're part 1 and part 2, but what can you do, right? And then we have 2 from this collection and 2 from this collection, which are these really like, I don't know, pop art kind of collections. Let's start with this one. We have Cujo, the dog who gets rabies, and then we have Night Shift, which is also a short story collection. And here, the most popular story in here kind of is Children of the Corn. I think that is like a really popular movie nowadays. And then we have like 2 short stories that belong to Salem Slot story-wise. And so yeah, this one was like definitely one of the better short story collections in my opinion from him. And then we have 2 which I didn't really know existed before buying them, which is, I don't know, these 2 I think aren't talked about that often. So we have The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, and she's kind of a girl that gets lost in the woods, and yeah, she tries to get home, and her love for Tom Gordon kind of gets her through it. And then we have Cell, which is a zombie story kind of about cell phones. There's kind of a virus that goes around where all of the people who answered their cell phone kind of become zombies, and our main characters have kind of to try and live through it and get out on the other end. Okay, and then we have 4 hardcovers that I bought new, and these are also probably the newest books by him. So we have If It Bleeds. I haven't read this one yet because there's one short story in here. It is a short story collection, if you can call it that, because the short stories aren't that short, but I think there are 4 stories in here, and I read somewhere that one of them I have to read another book first that I don't own, so I haven't read this yet, which might be dumb, but in my head it kind of makes sense. And then we have The Institute, which is about children with special powers and them being exploited, which I thought was kind of a little bit different than his other books. So yeah, I enjoyed that. Then we have Billy Summers, which is the story about killer for hire. I don't know if that's the right thing, but you know. And yeah, the job that goes wrong and his journey afterwards. And then we have the one that is, I think, at least the stand that I like, as far as I know, the last one that came out by him, and that is Fairy Tale, a book about fairy tales in Stephen King fashion. So yeah, those are all the books that I own by him, and yeah, as you can see, I have a lot of different collections. I hate it that every few years books get republished with different covers, so it's really hard to get all looking the same. I really struggle with that because I would like them all to look like the same cover style, but obviously since all of the books are from different timelines and I can't buy like 50 books like directly at once to get out of the same covers, I kind of piece my collection together secondhand as far as I can. So yeah, let's talk about the ones I like the least by him first, and then we come to my favorites, which I think are really worth reading. So, one I didn't enjoy that much is Mr. Mercedes. Actually, I found this one to be, I don't know, a little bit boring, which doesn't happen often to me with Stephen King books, so it was quite a surprise, which is also why I haven't continued with it yet, because this is actually a trilogy, but I don't want to hear more about our main character. He's like a really weird kind of old cop, you know, like an older detective, which was kind of like in this phase where he wants to be young again, but he really isn't, and yeah, so this one was one I didn't enjoy that much. Then, as I already said, this short story collection I think is one of the weakest I read by him, and that's Everything Eventual. I don't really think that it's one you need to pick up. Generally, I think his short story collections are a little bit weaker than his longer ones. I think the better short story collections are the ones where you have like 4 or 5 stories, which are like still a little bit longer, but these that have like a lot of really short stories I don't enjoy that much. Then 2 technically we have to talk about are the Dark Tower books. The first one I liked fine enough. I think it's a weird combo. I'm not like really a person who loves Western style books, so if you think about me not liking Western books, I actually liked it quite a bit. But yeah, for me this one is kind of off because I feel like it doesn't really know where it wants to go, and it leaves a lot of room open, and yeah, it really doesn't define itself, kind of, I think. And then I started the second one. This is the third one, that's not the right one. Then I started the second one, and this just goes off the rails. It is really, really weird. Kind of our main character here, we have like kind of a collection. The first one is placed only in the world of the Dark Tower, which is kind of a Western fantasy world, and there are magicians there. Time is really weird. And then we have, that is kind of a world parallel to our normal world, and this one kind of brings them both together in a really weird sense, because our main character in the human world is a drug addict who tries to smuggle drugs, and it's like a really weird thing. And so yeah, I have never gotten through this one. I do want to try, but I think it's just, for me it might be too weird of a fantasy series. But yeah, I want to give it another try. I just don't know how soon that will happen, to be honest, because they aren't short books, and yeah, getting through a big book you don't really enjoy is kind of hard. Let's just be honest with that. So yeah, actually these are kind of the only ones I really had more or less a problem with, and didn't enjoy that much. So I now have to kind of like decide which ones I love the most, which is a hard thing because I have to be honest, a lot of Stephen King's books really like hit with me, which I love, obviously, because that means I have a lot of great books to read because there are so many more out there. But yeah, it makes it hard to choose which ones I love the most. Okay, so this is kind of really cliche now, but my absolute favorite by him is It. I never thought I would love this because I hate clowns, to be honest, but yeah, I never knew how deep this book is actually, so this one is one I would say you need to read. Even though it is so big, I kind of feel you have to read this at least once in your life. Then we have Pet Sematary. I was afraid as a child from this book. I tried reading it and I didn't make it through because, I don't know, it's like really hard to read at times, and now that I'm an adult I kind of like get the story even more, especially since this book I feel like is more about like everyday horrors with like the family dynamic, what would you do for your family, suffering in silence, struggling with grief, all of that, which I think isn't something I ever expected from this book. So yeah, this was really cool. Then we have Dr. Sleep, because I personally actually think this is kind of nearly better than The Shining. I love The Shining, don't get me wrong, but I kind of really loved how weird this was and how much more it explains that you don't get to know in The Shining, but it doesn't ruin The Shining, which is kind of nice. So yeah, I really loved this one. Though I know why the cat is there, but I think they could have done a better cover, to be honest. And then the last one is Carrie. I haven't watched any of the films. I don't know if I ever will, but I feel so bad for Carrie, and I kind of loved her lashing out. I don't know, it's a lot of fun, to be honest. I think it's a short, fun book that really disturbs you at the beginning, and you kind of feel for her, and yeah, I don't know. Somehow this is one of those that like really stayed in my head a long time. Though I have to say, Fairy Tale, Billy Summers, The Institute, Salem's Lot, I love them all. But these, I think, stayed in my head for the longest, to be honest, out of all of them. So, yeah, that is kind of where I'm at with Stephen King. Obviously, I have a lot to read yet. Maybe you could leave me your favorite Stephen King books in the comments so I can choose the next ones I want to get. Because actually I don't have that many more that I can read or have to read before I get some new ones, because obviously the Dark Tower ones I really will not do at the moment. And then if it bleeds, I have to read the book that I have to read first, which I don't remember the name at the moment, but I know it's out there. And then yeah, Sleeping Beauties, which is like a really big book. But other than that, I have read most of them, so I'm definitely have to get some new ones. So yeah, please leave me down below which are your favorites. Maybe also tell me which ones you didn't like as much. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this short, chatty video, and we'll come back for the next one. So yeah, like, subscribe, and that would mean the world to me. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.